I'm Dave, and I'm a fanatic for Ferguson. That was the fan club for Maynard Ferguson, trumpet legend, and fanatical I was. Maynard was my hero growing up. Half my attire was from his concerts, you see. And I still get chills when I hear that first album, Live at Jimmy's, that I discovered in my dad's record cabinet when I was 12. Maynard played up in the stratosphere with this huge fat tone that could part your hair at 20 paces. His shows were like a high wire act. They took my breath away. My high wire act was to book one. Talk about breathtaking. A couple of things. Besides being totally awestruck by the guy, I had no experience promoting concerts, and at the time I was broke. In fact, when Maynard's new CD arrived one fateful day, my unemployment check was in the mail beside it. I had a wife, a mortgage, 3 kids, and 2 car payments. I should have been looking for something stable and dull. But having worked in radio for years, I thought, well, you know, you've got the gift of gab. Maybe you're an entrepreneur. And the CD was pretty great. So totally on a whim, I called Maynard's booking agent, and I'm floored that he's pitching me instead of the other way around. Turns out they've got a dead night on the tour schedule, my birthday, no less. And he gives me a great price on the band. And I go, well, that door opened, but I need a sign. So I went to my credit union for some seed money, and I figured, you know, if you're on thin ice, skate fast. Yes, I'd like to borrow $2,000, please, to book a guy you've never heard of for a concert 100 miles from here. Friends, I walked out with a check. As signs go, suddenly I am one with the force. I booked the band. I rent the finest concert hall available. Top line catering, security, insurance. The tab for all this runs to about half a year's salary, if I'd been working. Now, I'd heard the story of another Maynard fanatic who booked a show, and when the night came, they found him hiding in the catwalk of an empty venue because his marketing bombed. Well, I didn't want that. So I threw myself utterly into the task. I talked my way onto the local jazz stations, hung a million posters. I pooled my unemployment checks and got this teeny tiny ad in the Sunday paper. My kids stepped up with moral support. The night before the show, my daughters collaborated on this awesome drawing of Maynard and me on stage. Now, it's the 90s, so I've got this softball-sized scrunchie holding my ponytail. And Maynard is saying something to me in a word bubble. I said, oh, that's sweet. He's saying, how are you? And Stephanie says, what? Takes the paper back, works her little pencil. Now Maynard is saying, who are you? And I desperately hope this is not some kind of omen. So I went up in a hot air balloon once, and it struck me. You can be experienced, you can be prepared, but once you launch, the wind is boss. You adapt. It's show day. Liftoff. I know I've done everything I can as I call the ticket office. Now, I needed to sell 900 tickets to cover costs. I had sold 80. 80. It's 12 hours to showtime. But instead of heading for the catwalk, I crossed my fingers and myself, and I went out for the morning papers. A friend had told me that they were pretty sure anyone could write a proclamation, and if it wasn't too obscure, the governor might sign it. So at the 11th hour, I'd written one declaring it Maynard Ferguson Day in the state of Minnesota. Whereas he has educated, whereas he has inspired. And I ended with a zinger, whereas he can still hit those squeakers. I mailed it off to the Honorable Governor Arnie Carlson, say that 3 times fast, and later learned that he signed it on his way out the door for a week's vacation. That's how close I came to disaster. But now, there we were, my show, on the front page of the St. Paul and Minneapolis papers. The phone in the ticket office rang all day. The stage was set. The lasagna was baked, and possibly some of the musicians. I was in the wings when Maynard arrived. I said what I always said, eek! We broke even as I walked on to introduce the band, and I learned on the encore that I made some grocery money. To put a surreal night completely over the top, Maynard conducted the band in singing Happy Birthday to Me right on stage where everyone could see, especially Stephanie. Was this a risky venture? Oh, hell yes. But it was the thrill of 2 lifetimes, and I regret nothing. As any fanatic knows, to end on a high note, first you must begin. Yay. Thank you.